Yo, what's up guys, welcome to my humble YouTube channel where I bring you fanfiction that will brighten your days. Before we start, a subscribe is greatly appreciated, and don't forget to leave a like and ring the bell icon so you won't miss exciting new fanfiction stories. Tensura. Melting the Eternal Frost by JackDaWeb. Chapter 13. A new challenger arrives. Third-person POV. Over a week had passed since the planning of the founding festival. The citizens of Tempest were now busy preparing the city for the big event that was about to come. Completion of the Colosseum and Labyrinth was also accomplished, and the first few test runs of the dungeon were done. Rimuru and a few others had noted a significant difficulty curve that could potentially draw away profit if the levels increased too drastically. Eventually, the setting of each floor was optimized and a boss was set on every 10 levels, with floors 96 to 99 having 4 powerful archdragons as bosses in succession. Safety mechanisms such as the Resurrection Bracelet and Return Whistle were functioning as intended. Milam also wanted in on the fun and helped by capturing the arch-dragons that served as bosses for adventurers to face before reaching Veldora. The terrain of the levels varied, ranging from dense forests to cold tundras and even bone-dry deserts. Valuable treasures and high-grade equipment were hidden around each floor and got progressively better the lower the level. There are inns and resting points placed every 5 floors where adventurers can stop occasionally to catch a breath. In line with the founding festival, Rimuru had sent invites to the several nations Tempest had diplomatic relations with. The chieftains and leaders of many surrounding tribes and governments were eager to meet the land's new ruler. They mainly seek his protection and approval to live in the Great Jura Forest. Being the newly seated demon lord, the entirety of the Great Jura Forest had become his territory. Rimuru's authority and power were absolute, and his reign stood over the whole area of the forest. To top it all off, he was being backed by 2 of the true dragons, the feared storm dragon, Veldora, and the strongest of the ones alive, the white ice dragon, Velzard. Despite being a kind-hearted individual, Rimuru exuded an aura that commanded respect, and no one in the entire Jura Forest would dare cross his path in a bad way. Rimuru's POV Tempest has been more active in the last several days, but that is to be expected. It's been incredibly hectic having to prepare everything for the founding festival and the grand opening of the dungeon. Stalls of many different kinds were being set up all around the city. Even Veldora opened a takoyaki food stand. I'm really excited about the upcoming festivities, especially the nightlife of Tempest, which is about to get even more vibrant than before. I just have to get this meet up with the leaders of the surrounding settlements over with. I was sitting on my throne that oversaw the center of the city, and I was clad in my demon lord attire along with a fancy crown on my head. Velzard was standing to my right in a dignified and elegant manner, and Shuna stood calmly to my left. I went through the leaders one by one and engaged in some friendly small talk before seeing them off. There was a bit of trouble with the chieftains of the Mezu and Gozu getting at each other's throats. Fortunately, all it took was a little release of my aura to straighten them up. Speaking of aura, mine had evolved into a much more potent one called Draconic Demon Haki. After having used true dragon magic for quite a significant time now, my aura became coated with it and subsequently evolved. It is much more potent than Demon Lord's Haki, by a significant margin, but still less than that of Dragon Spirit Haki. The unique property of my aura is that it is coated in tiny bits of nihility, making it extremely dangerous. If I released enough of my aura, I could even shred through matter similar to how Dragon Spirit Haki does. I wonder if that would be my element when I evolve into a true dragon. How cool is that? The Nihility Dragon, Rimuru Tempest. Which makes me wonder. Seal. Would it be possible to make a skill after me? Something similar to the Veldora or Velzard ultimate skill. Yes, it is possible. Upon your true dragon evolution, the ultimate skill, Lord of Nihility, Rimuru, can be created and gifted to either Veldora or Velzard. This skill would allow either of them to restore you perfectly, summon you to them, and use Nihility magic. A dumbed-down version of imaginary collapse, that is still incredibly lethal. That's neat. But how do you know all that despite me not being a true dragon yet? All the information I need is already available through precise calculations. The only thing missing is the reconstruction of your constitution to be the same as a true dragon. I see. Thank you, Seal. No problem, Rimuru-sama. That skill would be incredibly handy to give to one of them. While the 2 of them are safe from death and renewed reincarnation, since I can perfectly revive them, I'm still at risk. When I do evolve and create that skill, I wonder which of the two I should give it to. Considering that the Rimuru skill would give them access to nihility magic, I must be very careful with my decision. Let's see here. Veldora would probably summon me unnecessarily to get his hand on a manga or something, so that immediately puts me off. Velzard is the stronger of the two, meaning it'd be a lot safer in her hands. But I know for a fact Veldora would throw a tantrum over me not gifting him a skill like that. In that case, I'll gift him something similar and modify his ultimate skill to add a few sub-skills. Going back to reality now, I look upon the next leader who just arrived. The one before me is the chieftain of the Lizardmen tribe, Abaru. Seeing him before me brought back memories of the days when I was only a mere demon lord seed. How time truly flies by. Now I've gone way above that and even gained a true dragon seed. Abaru knelt on the ground in respect and I gave a nod of approval. It is an honor to be in your presence, Rimuru-sama, he greeted respectfully. It's good to see you in good health, Abaru-san. I replied happily with a nod. If I may ask, how's my son been doing? Has he been lazing around or anything of the sort? He asked jokingly. Ha ha ha. Thankfully not. He's been really useful in our research department and has also become an incredibly formidable combatant. I told him earnestly and he nodded with a smile. I see, that's good to hear. It seems that he's grown and become more mature, he remarked honestly. Indeed he has. Anywho, I appreciate you for coming here today, Abaru-san. I thanked him. It should be I who thanks you for your continued allegiance and support, Rimuru-sama, he said gratefully while getting up slowly. After bowing one last time, he spread his wings and flew back to his domain. I think he was the last audience for today, though I could be wrong. Looking to my right, Velzard was standing while reading manga casually. Really? She's becoming like her brother. Sigh, this woman. Shuna to my left was obediently standing with a soft smile. Was Abaru the last guest for today? I asked no one in particular. Yes, Rimuru-sama. Shuna answered quickly. I see. I guess we're done for today. Good work, everyone. I replied somewhat tiredly. Thank you, Rimuru-sama. Now if you'll excuse me, she said with a deep bow before slowly walking away. Era, you seem quite tired, Rimu-kun. Would you like to get dinner before we go home? Velzard asked cheekily. I'd like to, yes, I replied as I got up from my throne and stretched my arms out. Foo, look at you, Rimu-kun. Truly acting the part of a powerful yet benevolent demon lord. She remarked teasingly and I rolled my eyes in response. HMPH. If I don't get my act together, people will always underestimate me because of my appearance or kindness. I am not a maiden, I voiced in frustration and Velzard giggled in response. She then began patting me on the back. Foo, but you are really beautiful, you know? She said seductively as she suddenly grabbed my chin. I felt my cheeks instantly heat up and I started panicking. VV Vels-chan. What are you saying all of a sudden? I asked in a panic while stuttering like crazy and Velzard started licking her lips. While I'd love to continue the fun, we're not exactly in the best place right now. Let's go have dinner first, shall we? She asked after backing away and she held her hand out to me. Geez. You can't be doing that all of a sudden, Vels-chan. I said in relief as I sat up and took her hand. Foo. With our business finished, Velzard and I left and headed for our favorite restaurant in the city. It was the first Japanese-themed restaurant that officially opened in Tempest and it is the best in my opinion. The chefs and waitresses there were personally trained and mentored by Shuna, so their cooking and service are top-notch. The ever-beautiful nightlife of the city came alive but much more vibrant this time. More people flooded the streets and more stalls of varying kinds opened up. On our way to the restaurant, we spotted something quite interesting. Veldora was running a takoyaki stand and there was quite a large amount of people lining up. Curious, Velzard and I walked over to the side of the stall to see what he was up to. Yo, Veldora, I see you've got quite a popular stand over here, I remarked loudly, which caught his attention. Era, it's rather amusing to see you run a food stall, Veldora-kun. Velzard said half-jokingly. Kuahahahahaha. Good evening to you Rimuru and Velzard nay. As you can see, my signature takoyaki is in high demand. Such is the greatness of the mighty storm dragon, he stated proudly. I certainly wasn't expecting this from you, but it looks like you're having fun, I said cheerfully. Would you two like a sample? He asked while holding out 2 sticks with a piece of takoyaki on it. Velzard and I looked at each other before grabbing the free sample from his hand. Then don't mind if we do, Velzard said gratefully. We took the first bite together and Veldora was looking at us expectantly. Holy shit. This is really good. I'm amazed that he can make something this delicious. I don't know why, but I thought he'd be on the same level as Sheehan when it comes to cooking. Velzard's eyes widened in surprise when she took the first bite. I guess she was also surprised that it tasted good. My, this is really good, Veldora-kun. Velzard complimented honestly and I nodded in agreement. Veldora looked quite flustered at his sister's comment but quickly regained his composure. Is that so? Then I thank you for your praise, you too, he said proudly while also slightly embarrassed. We finished our sample quickly and after some small talk with Veldora, we bid him goodbye and continued heading to our original destination. It wasn't that far from where we were so the walk was short. Entering the building, we were greeted by a goblina waitress and then we were guided to our usual spot. This restaurant has pretty much become our go-to dinner place so the people working here have grown accustomed to our repeated visits. We sat down and gave our orders to the waitress. Once done, we began waiting patiently for the food to arrive. Velzard started talking about the number of leaders we held an audience with today. She brought up a good point since I certainly wasn't expecting there to be that many intelligent monster civilizations and small human nations within the border of the Great Jura Forest. It just puts in perspective just how massive my territory really is. With this large of a territory, it's going to be a headache to micromanage everything. Velzard joked lightly. Yeah. I can already feel the headaches incoming from all this. I uttered in slight annoyance while pinching the bridge of my nose. But your biggest issue would be the Western nations, no? Even if Luminous abolished the decree which states that monsters are the enemies of humanity, I doubt they'll listen right away, she said with a slightly more serious tone now. That is true. But it's unlikely that they'll make any drastic or rash moves against us unless they're outright stupid, I replied somewhat dismissively. That's certainly not something you would say before, she commented teasingly. What can I say? I learned to be more prideful in my strength. While I'm still a very cautious person, I've seen enough of this world to understand that the majority of humans won't pose a threat to us, I stated bluntly and with confidence, which Velzard responded to with a wide grin. That's good. Cautious, but prideful. Benevolent, yet authoritative. I like that about you, she commented earnestly and I smiled in response. Anyway, regarding the Western nations, I might have to assign someone to represent me in their council, I suggested vaguely and Velzard perked up at this. Why is that? She asked curiously. I don't think I can just stroll around casually as a demon lord, especially into human territory. This person would act as an ambassador for Tempest to other nations, I explained further. Interesting idea. Who do you have in mind? She asked. Only Diablo seems to fit the role perfectly, though he can be extreme at times. But his plate is extremely full at the moment, so he can't be the one. The person assigned to this role has to be extremely powerful and good with diplomacy. Powerful so that are respected and not looked down upon, but also adept at handling things diplomatically since I don't want to forcefully establish coexistence with humans. I elaborated in detail. Velzard began thinking and after a few seconds, an idea came to her mind. I do have a suggestion for someone who might be perfect for this role, she uttered softly and I perked up. Really? Do you know them personally? I asked with wide eyes. Not exactly, we've never met. But we do know someone who does know her, she replied ambiguously. Who is it? I asked in anticipation. Blanc, the White Primordial. I believe Diablo-san knows more about her, so you'll have to ask him for more details, she revealed casually, much to my surprise. Another Primordial? I'll have to think about that one. It can't be normal to have 2 of them serving you, right? Ha. One is probably crazy enough, I quipped earnestly. Indeed, it is not normal. But since when were you ever normal, Rimuru-kun? She asked jokingly. Gah. You wound my heart, Velz-chan. I joked back while clutching my chest for dramatic effect. You have 2 true dragons on your side and a named Primordial as your subordinate. I think that's pretty abnormal if you ask me, she retorted playfully, emphasizing my abnormality, and I simply rolled my eyes in response. Whatever, I replied dismissively. Our food eventually arrived and we began eating right away. Velzard and I continued our light banter while chowing away at our meal. We were also thinking about visiting the hot springs again, but considering how packed every place is currently, we decided against it. My house does have a private hot spring, so we could always relax there whenever we wanted. However, Velzard does not want to because Veldora is going to be in the vicinity, and I agree. He's still unaware of the fact that we go to the hot springs together often, or that we even go out a lot. The only time he noticed us enter the hot springs at the same time was during the tour we gave Velzard. I'd find it a bit awkward myself if he ever found out. I don't want to have to explain to him that I go on dates regularly with his older sister. He must never find out. After half an hour, we finished our food. We paid for our meal and then went on our way home. Even this late into the night, the city was still vibrant and lively due to the upcoming festivities. Everyone was busy with setting up their stalls and making the buildings look nicer and more presentable. This vibe made the walk back extremely pleasant. It was different from the usual serenity and quietness that this hour would usually be. Such a shame that we couldn't go to the hot springs today, Velzard uttered somewhat dejectedly. We can always go another time, or we could use the one outside the house, I suggested jokingly. And risk my little brother walking in on us? She questioned with a raised eyebrow. Good point. But he's always reading his manga anyway. The chance of that weeb ever leaving the house on his own terms is shockingly low, I answered nonchalantly. Foo, that is true. Let's just go next time, Rimuru-kun. Besides, it's getting quite late already, she remarked softly. All right. I'm also getting tired, so I want to go to sleep, I said tiredly. We reached the house shortly and entered. To our surprise, Veldora wasn't reading manga for once and was asleep on the couch instead. This guy. He forgot about his room. Sigh, you're hopeless, Veldora. Velzard giggled next to me at the sight of her brother having fallen asleep in the living room. I guess he's also mentally exhausted from today, considering he actually did something instead of reading manga all day. Velzard and I walked up the stairs and into our room. We quickly changed into our comfortable sleeping clothes and turned off the lights before lying in bed. As I lay on my back while staring at the ceiling, Velzard's face suddenly loomed over mine. She then gently pecked my cheek with a kiss and quickly turned away from me. Sigh, I can never understand her sometimes. Though, I can't say I disliked it. I felt a small smile form on my face and I moved my body closer to hers. I drew my face closer to the back of her head and I wrapped my arms around her waist. I needed that, thank you. Good night, Velz-chan. I whispered softly into her ears before gently nibbling on it. Eep. She yelped cutely and I stopped nibbling her ears. I chuckled softly afterwards and she turned to face me with a pout on her face. HMPH, GG good night, Rimuru-kun, she said timidly while trying to sound annoyed. The next day. Yawn, it's daytime already? That was some of the best sleep I've had in a while. I sat up from the bed and stretched my arms out. Looking to my side, I saw Velzard, who was still sound asleep. Foo, how cute. I took out 2 mugs of coffee from my imaginary space and placed one on the nightstand. The aroma was still fresh and the temperature was still hot, just as I liked it. On the contrary, Velzard's coffee was iced, even though it was early in the morning. Yawn. Good morning, Rimuru-kun, she greeted cutely while rubbing her eyes awake. Good morning, Velz-chan. Here's your favorite coffee, by the way, iced to perfection, I replied while handing her the mug. Thank you. She thanked me and took the mug from my hand. After finishing our coffee, we instantly got ready for the day. More preparations for the founding festival are happening and they require some supervision. I quickly teleported both of us to my office and I readied myself for the onslaught of paperwork and meetings that were to come today. Sometime later, Shuna walked in with the first bunch of papers that needed to be checked. Luckily there weren't that many, so I started on them right away. Most of these were just mini projects and businesses that were seeking approval in preparation for the festival. The majority of the propositions were quite good and added great value to Tempest for the upcoming guests, so I approved most of them. It didn't take long to run through the first batch of paperwork and it was now time for a break. A meeting would be held after this, so Velzard and I decided to take a quick stroll around Tempest to pass the time. I quickly tidied up my office and teleported us out into the city square. We walked around aimlessly while conversing about trivial topics. Honestly, this was just an excuse to bond with Velzard outside of work. A few minutes had passed and we eventually ran into a group of 4 adventurers. Interesting, they must be here for the dungeon, though it isn't set to open until a few more days. The most peculiar of the group is the timid-looking man with blonde hair. It seemed as if the group was following him around. Would you look at that? It seems as if the demon lord himself has shown up to bask in your presence. Masayuki-sama, one of their party members proclaimed boldly. Huh? What the fuck was she on about? I don't even know this dude. The other 2 nodded in agreement while the guy whose name was Masayuki looked like he wanted to escape the situation. For being the leader of his group, he seems incredibly timid and even cowardly. Jiwoo, can you shut up? Masayuki pleaded forcefully. Ha ha ha. Surely you jest, Masayuki-sama. This demon lord before you stands no chance against your might. The dude wearing glasses declared loudly. Okay, seriously. Who the hell is this kid? Is he some big shot or something? I looked at the group in confusion and Velzard beside me wore an amused grin at the whole situation. Who the hell are you guys? I asked bluntly. Be quiet, demon lord. Standing before you is the great lightspeed hero himself, Masayuki. The big-looking guy said disrespectfully. We've come here to defeat you in battle. You are to accept our challenge or be deemed a coward here and now, the glasses dude declared. A tick mark appeared on my forehead and I felt myself crack one of those deadly and not at all amused smiles. My fingers slightly twitched, which went unnoticed by everyone except for Velzard. Normally, I wouldn't mind these kinds of comments from these kinds of people, but I was not gonna let this slide and I prepared to put them in their place. There was no way I was tolerating this level of disrespect in my country. I tapped my foot on the ground loudly, which brought their attention to me. Ho! You guys have some balls to talk that heavily directly to a demon lord's face. I'm having trouble discerning if it's pure bravery and confidence, or sheer stupidity and ignorance. Would you care to enlighten me, oh so great lightspeed hero, Masayuki? I said every word laced with power and authority while simultaneously releasing my draconic demon haki, which made them instantly fall on their knees. Masayuki's pav, is this it? Is this where I die? These guys couldn't just shut up. I told them over and over that I wasn't all that they hyped me up for, and now look where we are. The 4 of us were forced to kneel from the sheer pressure of his aura and we started suffocating from the intensity of it. The force from his aura alone is insane. And his eyes, those cold, golden eyes. The fear they instilled. PP, please forgive our insolence, Demon Lord Sama. I beg of you, show us mercy. I pleaded profusely, hoping that he would let us off the hook, and he slightly narrowed his eyes at my statement. The others couldn't say a word since they were barely hanging on from the pressure of this immense aura. I was somehow able to put up the most resistance out of the group, yet it still greatly affected me. What's crazier is that I could tell that this guy was holding back a lot. Eventually, he stopped releasing his aura and we could finally breathe once again. We started frantically gasping for air while still kneeling on the ground, the pain in our knees clear as day. Foo, you sure went easy on them, Rimuru-kun. The lady with long white hair beside him joked. What part of that was going easy? Usually I'd let comments like that slide, but not this time. I will not tolerate any disrespect towards myself, my people, and my nation. Do I make myself clear? He asked us sternly and we all nodded profusely. Sigh, here, he said as he splashed us with a potion of sorts that instantly healed us completely, which shocked our party. What the hell? What kind of healing potion is that? Mind explaining what you're all doing here in my country? He questioned us with a raised eyebrow. We began sweating nervously, but I did my best to regain my composure. Well, we recently became a new adventurer party and one of the quests we picked up was to investigate the nation of monsters. I answered very nervously. The demon lord started thinking before replying to my statement. Sigh, did you guys happen to pick up the mission from the Free Guild? He asked us with narrowed eyes and we all nodded in response. Why yes, I affirmed quickly. He put his hand to his chin and looked to be in deep thought. Are you making a move, Yuki? He muttered quietly, though still loud enough to be heard. We found his remark confusing but decided not to speak up on it. Let's move this discussion elsewhere. Besides, our break is ending soon. The lady next to him said. You're right. You four, follow us. We'll continue our discussion somewhere else. He ordered firmly and we all nodded. He turned his back to us and was about to walk away but stopped and turned around to face us again. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. My name is Rimuru Tempest, the Soul Devourer. This beautiful lady here is my second in command, the White Ice Dragon, Velzard.